Well, getting it right in the Nigeria's downstream oil sector is what we're about today. And looking at what has popped up from the very, very inaugural speech of the president when he stepped into office, May 29, 2023, where he said fuel subsidy gone. And of course, the deep impact of the deregulated sector of the downstream and how that has brought about much development is what we're going to be, accessing. And joining us to discuss this in the studio, we have a legal practitioner, Emmanuel Obakpolo. Thanks for being here.
Beautiful morning to you and beautiful morning to Nigerians.
We also have a legal practitioner joining us via Zoom presence, and it is Andrew Ayegbene Bello. Good to have you join, Andrew.
It's a pleasure joining you this morning. Good morning, Philip.
All right. And we basically will also be having another from Ekpoma via Zoom, talking about Ibrahim Momo, but as much as we're able to get connectivity, we come on board with him on that. Let's hit the ground running and looking at the need for us to see how your perception is like on the overall reforms in the downstream oil sector under the leadership of President Bola Tinubu. You agree with me that it has been a conversation that the downstream sector being deregulated, where we have private participation and allowing market forces to determine the price of petroleum products, is the way to go in about bringing a balance to the challenges we've been faced in the downstream oil sector. So what's your perception and assessment so far?
So far we've had loss, and also the downstream sector. You cannot discuss the petroleum sector just now in Nigeria without first considering the Petroleum Industrial Acts, because it is that act that gave birth to some of the practices we are seeing today in Nigeria.
Yeah.
And you would agree with me that that credit should be given to the past administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, because he at that time was able to constitute a committee to see how there could be a proper practice and regulation with respect to the downstream sector in Nigeria, and that gave birth to the Petroleum Industrial Act. And now if you look at that act, under that act we have the upstream sector regulated by the Nigeria Regulatory Commission. Then the middle stream and the downstream sector are regulated by the Nigeria Regulatory Authority. So you now see that we have catalogs of institutions that plays a role or that function in the petroleum sector, whether upstream, whether midstream, whether downstream, as the case may be. But now, if you look at the downstream sector, and with the declaration made by the president on the 29th of May 2023, wherein he declared that subsidy gone, and also you marry it with the belief and government policy just now, which made NNPC to have less public function, control or function, as the case may be, and now you have more of the private sector. And when you consider the declaration and you look at the functionality of the NNPCL as it is just now, you will see that there is no nexus between the two. Because one, if the president who represents the public, the Nigerian public, can also have the power to determine the regulation of the oil sector, then it goes to tell that what we are made to understand, that the Nigerian Petroleum Corporation Limited, as they call it now, NNPCL, is indeed not really private, but still has some authority from the public angle of it. But then we are faced with plethora of challenges, despite the law that has come to see how it can give birth, it can make the regulatory of oil, the oil sector, to get to El Dorado, but we have not yet there, because we still have a lot of lacuna. Because if you look at PIA, the PIA itself has brought in the oil communities to also have function in the determination of the downstream sector, the midstream sector, and also the upstream sector. But are we there? That is the question. I think, to my mind, we are not there yet.
Okay, let's fill the pause of Andrew Bello, because we know basically there is need to kickstart the process of the deregulation sector, in the petroleum sector, and there is need to look in that direction. How the policies under the present leadership are working out. What's your assessment about this?
Thank you very much. The topic this morning is very germane. We're talking about the social angle of the PI, the Petroleum Industry Act, the recently passed Petroleum Industry Act. The truth is, from my own angle, credit to my learned friend, my good friends in the studio there with you. I can't see much that has changed in the petroleum sector, especially the downstream sector in Nigeria. I can't see much that has changed. Yes, my learned friend has talked about the administrative changes that have taken place in the NNPC, the management of the oil sector in Nigeria. Yes, we've seen those administrative changes here and there. But if you ask me, it's the same 10 and tempest. It's as if we're changing names, we're changing titles, but we're going to behave the same way. I've not seen anything that has changed or much that has changed especially in the downstream sector in this country. If you say you have deregulated something, it means that you have allowed the public, the market forces, to be in charge of the regulation. That's what the simple word deregulation means. We are no longer regulating it, especially in the full sense of it. We not allow market forces to do what's to be done economically. Let things happen naturally in the economic sense of things. And to do this is very simple. Allow any player who wants to come into the oil sector come in and let him be able to get crude oil. The problem we have had, and even the Dangote oil that came on stream after much force, after much fighting and forcing, it's still being regulated as to how much crude it can access. The ones that we have, the other smaller modular refinery, especially the one in Edo State, invested in some time ago. Another smaller modular refinery, from my investigation, we have up to 6 of them, smaller modular refineries that have actually been established. They're supposed to be working, but they are not working because they cannot even access crude. So if they cannot access crude, then how can we talk of, say you have deregulated? If you deregulate something, it means you have allowed people to come in. You have opened the door. You are giving them free hand to work freely there. As long as they work, they give the desired output. That's what the regulation means. But what we are seeing today, to me, it's still not the regulation. The government still regulates a lot of things. And it's very simple. How do you regulate it? If you ensure that crude doesn't get to the market where it ought to get to the market, then the products will not also get to the market because the products will come from the crude. So if you regulate what goes into the market as in crude, then you have already automatically regulated what will come out to the public market, the downstream sector. It's that simple. And again, in addition to the issue of how you regulate the crude, there's also the information from the media space that this country has taken loans on top of our crude. They've taken loans guaranteed by crude for a number of years to come, so that the crude that we can access is now very limited. If that be the case, then you see that you cannot talk about deregulation when you have already limited the level of crude that could be accessed, the amount of crude that could be accessed. You've already limited it. You've already given out a large portion of it in the name of loans, in the name of want to eat today and forget tomorrow. Want to eat today's home and leave tomorrow's home. We are taking tomorrow's loan against today. We are
Andrew, but let me quickly cut in. Don't you think that you may be wrong if you say that it's not starting in the right footing? Because if you look at what you said as regards allowing market forces to determine the price of the product, we've seen some competitive, forces in the market, and we've seen some reduction in the prices of petrol, for instance. Isn't that a direction to show that we are working towards getting it right?
It is funny when we say reduction. We started at 600, later 700, 800, 900, 1,000 something. Now they say they are back. They say they are back to 930. That's what they said. but I can going to buy it at 990, 1,006. I think that's still the price range in most filling stations these days, between 990 naira per liter and 1,600 naira. Sorry, 1,060 naira per liter. I think that's still within the price range presently. But let's look at it. If you say you have deregulated something, you have open. I agree that if few persons have come in, those few persons who came in, they didn't come in by an open door. They forced their way through the door. When you say to regulate something, it means that the door is open. But when people have to force their way, you see, as powerful as Dangote was, he was crying. As powerful as that, that's one of the most powerful persons in Africa, as he is. Dangote, Aliko Dangote is one of the most powerful persons in Africa. But he still had to bulldoze his way, he still had to push his way through to come into the stream. Then if Dangote had to go through that kind of fight to get to be able to come into the market, then can you say such a market is open? Can you say it is deregulated? I agree that we say we have deregulated, we've allowed people to come in, but it's still for the powerful, still for the mighty, the forceful. Is that how it is in Saudi Arabia? That is, I think when we are comparing these things, when we are looking at especially new areas like this, the regulation, which is a new thing in this country, we look at how it is done in other countries that practice the same thing, that have the same oil that we have, because you should look at those who are better than you to know where you want to be. Saudi Arabia has oil, Oman has oil, Qatar has oil. There are so many of these countries, even in West Africa, in Africa here, we also have countries that have oil. How are they doing their oil? How is it that oil in Qatar, in Saudi Arabia, in Oman, in Iran is so cheap? It's less than 500 naira per liter. And here in this country, we cannot sell at that price because we are following international market. What happens to those other countries that they are not following international market? Are they not selling their goods at international market price? Why is their own cheap and why is our own expensive? That's what we should be thinking of. That's the essence of when people said we should deregulate this sector. When Labour has been crying, part in the Petroleum Industry Act, which was then a bill, Petroleum Industry Bill, the whole essence of all that hue and cry by Labour and the masses and civil society was so that it will become easier, better for the Nigerian mass, not to strangulate the Nigerian mass. But what we have today is strangulating the Nigerian masses. So if we pass laws, if our laws are passed only for the purpose of administrative convenience, it doesn't show, because your pressure is for the social and political dimension. If it doesn't show in the political area, the social area, we cannot pick benefit from the social.
All right, so Andrew just took the question off my mouth, because when the real essence of the regulation comes into play, you allow market forces to determine the cost of goods and services. But in this case, my question goes to you, given what Andrew has just established. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, on his inaugural speech, pronounced that fuel subsidy was gone. Few months down the line, as of July in 2023, 3.6 trillion naira was estimated to have been spent on the same subsidy that was kissed goodbye. What is your thought on that?
You see, that is the challenge we have in this part of the world. Government comes up with policy or policies, and they throw it at the people, and at the same time, as government throws it, it's like the bouncing ball, where they bounce the ball to hit the wall. What do you anticipate? The ball comes back to the person that throws it. That is what government does, particularly with the oil sector. And that is why you see we are not making progress when it has to do with the oil industry in Nigeria, because there is a lot of downplaying. There's a lot of policies making that favors a few persons. Just like Mr. Andrew opined, you would agree with me that even as powerful as Dangote struggled, Dangote battled, to the extent that the man shouted out to let the whole world know that this is what is happening indeed in the oil industry. It got to a time, even just now, it is still the NNPCL that determines the price of oil. So you would, from that angle, you will agree with me that what we call deregulation is indeed not deregulation.
Okay, so my next question now would be, since you're giving us the analogy of government throwing the ball and expecting from the public to get the ball bounces back. some persons are saying that why this is so is because the only source of revenue, as it were, is the pot of soup, which is crude oil. So the government tends to be struggling a great deal to allow proper deregulation to take place. Is that the case with the ball you're throwing and having it bounce back at you?
Yes, and that is why the word deregulation, in fact, every word we have come to understand that is nexus to government policies in Nigeria has been given a different meaning from the original meaning. And that is why you see that today, even just now, I stand to be corrected, we still pay subsidy. Just now.
Well,
but we are told that subsidy gone. We are told once upon a time that subsidy was a scam.
Okay.
But later on, the purported scam became reality.
Thank you, Emmanuel.
And now we are still here battling with that.
Thank you, Emmanuel.
I don't think we are going to achieve anything.
Thank you, Emmanuel Bako. Just like you said, you stand to be corrected, though you are sitting. But we're going to be looking at that and see what that means, because we've been hearing this saga about there is still fuel subsidy, despite the fact that the president said fuel subsidy gone. We'll take a short break, after which we'll expound on the frontiers of this conversation. Do stay. Thank you for joining us again. We're still about the reforms on Nigeria's downstream oil sector and what the president is doing in that light. And of course, we're going to be having the attention of Andrew Bello again. Let's get to look at what is happening, because some have said that the reason is quite important to cushion the effect that this is going to be having on the citizens. And we've had various forms of palliatives, you know, that still is not working. And even the stampede that occurred in December also shows that, you know, there is hunger in the land. But again, while we look at the policies of the government in addressing this aspect where the hardship is on the people and how to cushion the effect, let's also have your bite on the savings that have been gotten, you know, in the process of this fuel subsidy removal, the proceeds that the government has gotten from it, and how it's utilizing it for infrastructural development across states of the Federation.
Okay, good morning again. See, sometimes we forget things. I don't know whether we forget or we don't just know how to ask questions in this country. Recently, the Senate wanted to look into the benefits, the savings that we've made from the subsidy removal, according to to use their term, subsidy removal, the benefits, what we have saved so far. And they had to go into a closed session. Imagine, they had to go into a closed session just to look at the benefits, the savings that we have made from subsidy removal. That's to tell you there's something that people are not, nobody is telling us. But let us not go into speculation here. Now, coming down to your question directly, subsidy removal has taken a hard toll on many Nigerians. A lot of Nigerians have felt it. Even Mr. President said it proudly in his media chat that one of his friends that used to drive in convoy is now driving one Honda. I don't know if that is a success or if that's an achievement as a country, but I don't see it as one. I think what we can count as an achievement, as success, is where we now move from consumption to production, from importation to factories, from importation to manufacturing hubs. That's what we should be counting as our successes. I will expect that Mr. President will tell us that, from the monies they save from subsidy removal, they have now been able to establish so many agricultural factories. They have now been able to establish so many storage factories, so many production factories. That is what we want to see, not for anybody to come and tell us how many vehicles are now packed. So because we are now packing vehicles, it is benefits. I don't see how that is a benefit to any part of the country. Well, I don't think there's any country in the world that wants its people to suffer, to pack your vehicles and begin to trek under this, especially under the hot sun that we have in this country. What we should be pursuing is development, technological advancement, which can come from the money you take from subsidy, the one you have removed from subsidy, you now plow it back into the people, but in the way of technological development and advancement, you now push people into R&D, research and development, so that you bring in the much needed advanced development that this country greatly lacks. We are still very far behind in science and technology. Other countries are now using their money to go and create rain from the sky. They go up there, create rain by themselves and bring it down here. We are still here. We cannot even manage the little water. If it rains too much, we will be taken by flood. Our people will be killed. If the sun shines too much, we suffer. Nothing to even put in the basic, the most basic of development, of technological development we can't find in this country. But we're going to talk of subsidy removal as a gain. Subsidy removal as a gain in what sense? To me, it's not a gain, it's a loss. Because the gain will be when we now see that savings being channeled into something. It is either roads. If you now say, okay, all the roads, all the federal roads in Nigeria are now motorable, then we cannot talk about the gains we've made from subsidy removal. But for now, there's no gain from subsidy removal. For now, until we begin to see those gains. Mr. President said they are building a new coastal highway. They want to build a new rail line from Abuja to Lagos. I don't see how those, with the old ones that we had, we cannot use them anymore.
Andrew, if you can hear me, my next question to you would be, Andrew, if you can hear me clearly, you've established your point quite clear that no critical infrastructure was impacted from the savings of subsidy, whether road network, whether building of factories or industries to be able to create more employment and to reduce the burden of depending on foreign goods coming into the country. So none of those were experienced. Rather, what we saw was government spending, especially on frivolities. We saw the legislatures getting SUV cars to the tune of 160 million per car, multiplied by the number of executive members in that particular legislature. So what do you think should be done at this point, having realized that there was no significant improvement in what we saved from the subsidy? There was no accountability, there was no transparency when it comes to government expenditure from the proceeds that were saved from subsidy. So what do you think needs to be done going forward?
The Nigerian people need to show that they are more interested in their country than their leaders. Because the truth is, the leaders have not shown much interest. So the Nigerian people, the populace who actually feel the impact, they need to speak more and speak out. You see, a legislator came out on public TV and was telling us that the roads to his village is bad. That is why he needs a vehicle that can fly. And they need a vehicle that can maneuver potholes. So rather than fix the road for everybody to pass through, you need a vehicle that only you can use to maneuver the road. Then the others can go and die. That is his calculation on this, on what our public funds should be used for. So it's time Nigerian people speak out. And one of the ways to speak out, you come to court, challenge some of the disbursements in the budget, the budgetary allocation. Challenge it in court and say, my lord, the constitution provides that public funds shall be used for the welfare of the people. That's what public funds to be used for. And what the public fund can be used to deal with is provided for in the chapter 2 of the constitution. It's not for personal gains, not for the gains of the leaders alone. So if you challenge those budgetary allocations, you will see that sometimes you may get some things in court. The ones you cannot get in court, go to National Assembly, use your legislators to challenge them. The ones you cannot get from National Assembly legislators, come out to the streets and also ask for them. We cannot just sleep and fold our hands and say, oh, this is our Lord, let us for it to suffer. No. Nigerian populists need to start speaking out and speaking out more. Go to court, spend your money to challenge this budgetary allocation. When a budget is made that gives a politician a vehicle that can fly over your roads while you're going to suffer and walk over that road, it is your duty to go to court and challenge the allocation and say, my lord, rather than give this man a vehicle that can fly, use that money to fix the road so all of us can drive our Beetle on top of the road. Okay. That way we won't have to.
Thank you very much, Bello. Thank you, Bello. Now, let's get to the solutions, just like you said. Let's look at what the government can do, both at the state and, of course, even the federal and the state level. We have modular refineries, for instance, and that can also help to, reposition the sector in order to bring about the price of the product downward to a point where the people can really survive. And again, we also look at the need for us to have more accountability. How transparent are the policies of the government? And how engaging are the people, in terms of bringing the government function-raisers and their policies to book in order to look at a way to bring about the betterment of the entire population?
You can only be transparent when you are sincere. And I want to tell you that the crop of persons we have at the position of leadership in this country are not sincere to themselves and are not sincere to Nigerians. And that is why you cannot see transparency. Even just like Mr. Bello said, even when you get to go to court and get judgment, to execute the judgment against these people is another rigor for you to go through. They will come and tell you how the Constitution gives them immunity. So all of that will be defeated at the close of the day.
Is that not a setback for the judiciary? Is that a setback from
the judiciary has done its own and giving you judgment.
So
but
it's about the executive, the law enforcement agency to execute the judgment.
It's a constitutional pitfall.
Who executes the judgment?
The court executes its judgment. Okay. But can you execute judgment against this person? The only way you will do is that if where the judgment is mandatory, say, okay, do like this. Will they do it? And when they don't do it, are you going back to court again? So you look at now, first, there must be sincerity. Secondly, the politicians must have the people at heart. But yeah, we have 3-point agenda. Me, myself, and I. Me, my wife, and children. That is the kind of situation we find ourselves. And that's why we are not moving forward, and we are not even going anywhere. We are not stagnant. We are not going forward. We are not going backward. Where are we? No way.
You seem to suggest that. You seem to say there's no hope.
For now, there is absolutely no hope. With the couple of persons we have our position of leadership. And that is why you see that things are very, very difficult for the common man. Yes, they will tell you. You saw during the festive period how persons went to die because of rice. Rice that they claim that a bag of rice that is not even up to a quarter of rice. I don't know the measurement they use, their own modus operandi to see how they can do things work for the people. But we find ourselves in a situation where now, with the declaration, the purported declaration of subsidy gone, the governors have more monies in their pockets. What are they doing with the monies? And that is why at a point in time, even the president admitted, and he now said, oh, hold your governors. How will the people hold their governors? I think I suggested that the best way to go was for the president to have a rethink and bring back the subsidy. Look, none of us want the subsidy to remain there. But what we anticipated was that it should have been a gradual removal. But now, the president just made the declaration with the wave of the palm, and before you know it, they started giving more monies to the governors, and the governors smile. And today, we are in a very big problem. Now, somebody said, I read somewhere, that some of the northern governors, about 6 or 7 of them, are now saying, okay, we will now subsidize fuel for our people, so that our people can buy it 600 naira a liter. If that happens, you will now see that really it is because of 2027. The political atmosphere is now getting hotter, and they want to return to power. So they will not deceive the people again by telling the people, oh, we have subsidized fuel. Fuel is now 600 naira a liter. But the question is, how much did you meet the price of fuel when you came on board? Well, thank you, Emmanuel Obakola. We must say big thanks for taking out on the part of this, and wish you a beautiful day ahead of you. Well, that's how the conversation from the Benin Network Center runs off.